Trails Farm, and I know I haven't done a loom knitting project for quite some time, and it's usually because I loom knit in the cold months. I don't know why, but that's just a thing I do. And I've had a lot of sewing projects going on that are slowly wrapping up. So I know a lot of you are waiting for some more loom knitting projects, and I have 2 videos, and I'm going to do this one now. And I have been promising my best friend for like a year that I would put this one up because it's been sitting in pieces ready to be finished, but I've just had one thing after another, and it's like a sit down kind of thing, and I just haven't done it. So Pam, I'm sorry. Here's the gnome. We are loom knitting a gnome. I know these are really popular in stores. Everything that you can think of has a gnome on it. I even bought a gnome garden light, pink garden light for Rocco Taco's grave area. He didn't like the dark, and it seemed fitting that we buy him a little solar powered gnome light. He had a pink light that he slept with next to his mat here, and so I got him like a little pink gnome guy for the garden. But anyway, so let's get to it. Now this is going to seem complicated, but it really is not. We got to break it up into parts. If you've watched any of my other sewing videos, you know that's what I like to do. I look at something and then I break it into parts. If you break things into parts, things become less complicated. So we're going to look at each piece, and I'm going to tell you what you need to do. And then you can make each piece, and then you put it all together. And it really isn't complicated at all. It's just like we're making a bunch of hats and tubes, and we're going to stick them together. So although it will seem complicated at first, unless you are like a very seasoned loom knitter, it's not going to seem that complicated. But if you are a beginner, this might seem complicated, but don't despair. You're just making a bunch of hats, okay? That's all you're doing. You're going to make a bunch of different size hats and tubes, and we're going to stick them together. So bear with me, and I'm going to show you. I'm not going to sit here and loom knit everything, but I'm going to show you the measurements, and I'm going to tell you what you need to do to make a gnome. All right, I am using a 62 peg, 6.5 inch internal diameter. It's like 7-inch diameter. So you can use the regular fat peg ones. This isn't the right size, but the equivalent 7 fat peg one. It's what I call the fat peg. I don't know. It's the less pegs, but you're going to have more gaps. And so whenever you do something like that, you're either going to have to thicken up and use multiple skeins of yarn at the same time, or you can use make a fabric ball. It's basically you make a bag, sew the end together, sew the 2 ends together, make a square, fill it with cotton, and then sew it together and stick it in there so it's the same color. This is gray. I would make a gray bag if I had holes, and that way it wouldn't be so noticeable. But that's other steps that you have to do. But anyway, I like these ones that have more pegs on them because there's no gaps and it's like a knitted fabric. So that's the first thing. So you need a 7-inch loom, and this is going to be the gnome's body. No cuff, knitted, and let's see how long I knitted. Now I don't count my stitches like some people do. I have a different way of doing it, and I do everything by length. So we're going to do, that's what it worked out here. 9 inches is what I've done, 9 inches. So 8 or 9 inches, it's not rocket science, and you'll work with it. So 8 or 9 inches, and this is going to be the gnome's body. So let me get my big needle, and we're going to take this off of the loom. I just do everything E-wrap. Everyone always asks me. I think I even have that in the description category of the loom knitting thing. That's the only stitch I use. So here we are. We're going to just take this off the loom. If you are new to loom knitting and you were hoping for instruction on everything, I do project videos, so I am assuming you already know how to loom knit. If you don't know how to loom knit, I have videos on how to loom knit. Check out the introduction to loom knitting. I probably also show you how to loom knit on the Afghan video. And I think I also show you on the hat video. I also get asked a lot what kind of needles I use. I use very long, it's sharp, you gotta be careful. It's an upholstery needle. You can find them in the needle section of probably Walmart and Joann's Hobby Lobby, wherever you get your fabric. And they're just very long and steel because those plastic ones, I crack them in half. I don't know what I do, how I'm holding them in correctly, I guess, but I just snap them. So long time ago I switched to using these big, long, thicker upholstery needles, and they just work great because they're so long and you can really pick them up, pick up the stitches. Okay, when you get it off the loom, just like we would do a hat, we're gonna do it's like a drawstring. We're just gonna draw it up here. All right, and then I am going to poke a few stitches in here to totally close up the hole. I always, when I'm done stitching something, I pull it up through the inside and do a few stitches just to sort of secure it. So what we've got looks like a hat. It's Mr. Gnome's body. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I don't want to close up the top part yet because I may want to inset my head. Sometimes it works better one way and sometimes it works better the other way, so always leave yourself some room there. Alright, we want to make him, so he sits as flat as we can do. I'm not going to overstuff him because we might have to add more in a minute. So this is Mr. Gnome's body. So that was the first step. So knit yourself that little, basically it's a hat with no cuff, and you've got your body. So let's set him aside over here. Right, next we have the gnome's head, and we're using 5-inch internal diameter. It looks like it's about 5.5. It's the blue one, just like this one. So you can use the fat peg if you want, or I used a 44 pegs is what I used, or you can use the standard one that comes in the regular set. Knitting, again, a cuffless hat basically, and we want to knit for approximately 6 inches. 6.5 inches will work. We're going to take the head off of the loom. We're going to do exactly what we did with the gray one. Always leave yourself about, I don't know, 12 to 24 inches of, well, that 24 might be a lot. I've left a lot on this one. At least a foot of extra when you yarn when you cut it, so you can take it off of the loom and have enough to go back around. Okay, I should have mentioned, since this is the head, you want to do a flesh tone, whatever color you want. I was out of flesh tone, and I was trying not to buy anything new for the project. I was using stuff I already had, so I had this huge skein of white, so white he is. You could use any kind of flesh tone that you want. In fact, you could make them any color you wanted, but it needs to be a different color. You need to decide on your color scheme. Let me show you what I did real quick. So I decided to do a gray body, and then I'm using this. I love this. I think it's discontinued now. Luckily I bought several of them because I just love it. I've used it in several other projects. Uptown, worsted tapestry, and I think it was Yule. What's it called? Yule time. And so I'm doing maroons and grays, and so what I have is I have a solid body. It's probably what you would want to sit with a solid body. After you see the arms, you'll see why. But you could do anything you wanted. Choose your flesh tone, and your beard's probably going to be white because most gnomes have white beards. But your flesh tone can be whatever it wants, and then choose your. Basically, what we're going to make is like a shirt, like a body, arms, and the body, and a little head, and a hat, and then we're going to do and a nose and a beard. So choose your shirt color. So he's got a gray shirt and a white head. So I'm drawing it up just like do a hat. And you don't have to be as precise about what this one looks like because both ends of this hat, so to speak, the head, are going to be covered up by something else when we get it all finished. So I'm doing a couple stitches to secure it. And now we have his head. So I'm going to put some stuff in down in his head here. I'm going to have his little head here, round, and his little body. I'm not going to attach it yet because the arms will be easier to attach if I can go on in the inside. So we have a body. Here we're going to have his little head and his body. So let's put that over here. Now let's look at his arms. And we're going to need 2 arms. I use, for my small loom, I use this, it's a Studio 12, this is a vintage flower loom. And I know they make smaller looms, I have a bunch of them, but for years they didn't. They didn't have all sizes. It's just been sort of probably, I don't know, maybe the last 10 years where things have gotten really awesome in the loom world and you can find things easier. Before I would have to make my own or find something improvised. But anyway, I've been using this flower loom forever. I use this more for loom knitting than I do for making flowers. But I use the inner part of this. If you're trying to find an equivalent, and I know a lot of you out there that follow my videos have just gone to Goodwill or online and have bought this, so just so you can do what I do and you don't have to figure out what I'm doing. But if you're trying to find sort of an equivalent, it's about 2 inches in diameter. So about a 2-inch loom. It doesn't have to be exact. It can be a little bigger, a little smaller, whatever you got. And we're going to be making 2 arms. And so what I've started out is this is his hands in his sweater. So here's his sweater, and here's his hands. So whatever color you chose to make his head, you need to make the top part of your, you need to start out on your loom with that. And you're going to knit for about an inch with the flesh color, whatever flesh color you chose. Then you need to tie a knot in your yarn, switch to the other yarn you're using, and I switched over to the Yule Time that has the different colors. Now you don't have to do this. I wanted to make it look like he had a cuff of a different color, the cuff, because my cuffs are going to match my hat, which is going to be this. If you're doing solids, you can just do, like say you did a red body, you can just do a solid red arm. I was getting a little creative with mine. So I did another inch of the kind that I'm going to tie his hat in because I sort of wanted it to match. You don't have to do that. You could just do the gray all the way, or you could, if you're doing, or like say his body's red and you're doing a green hat, you could do an inch of green and then switch to red. But so what I have is a hand and a cuff and the sweater arm. So it's up to you if you want to get as busy as I did and make the cuff color. You could just do the arm, all the solid color if you want to. So I did about an inch for his hand, I did about an inch for his cuff, and then his actual arm, the solid color, I did 3.5. So if you're doing all one color, do 4 inches of the one color after you get done with the inch of his hand. So an inch and then 4 inches, whatever you decide to do with the sweater arm. You need an inch for his hand, 4 inches for a sweater arm. Some of that's going to get tucked in and sewn. So now we're going to, so I did 2 of those using the little 2-inch. So let me stuff his arms. And you don't want to overstuff his arms because they need to, you know, they need to sort of, you don't want him sticking straight out like the little boy in Christmas Story when his mom put him all in all the winter gear. It's about good. You want it to be solid, but you want it to be sort of squishy. One of my arms turned out a little longer than the other, and that's okay. We'll fix it. We can turn it under. Right on the back, my back always has, you can sort of tell when I've started a new row and I get this weird kind of row. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's just probably losing track of and doubling over. But anyway, so that I've chosen that for my back. His arms are going to go on the sides, just like people arms do. So let's see, which one was longer? The one that's longer I need to turn under. So if you've done one that's actually longer than the other, you want to make them the same length, just push it under. I'm going to start about 2 inches down. If it helps, use center. You can get a straight pin with like a big color ball so you can see it easy. Find your center and put your pin maybe in the center in the front so you can sort of line it up. I'm going to, first of all, I'm just going to pin them in place. If your arms are touching the floor like mine are, I need to move them up. You don't want them to, you want it to like be like that. You don't, and whatever you ended up doing, so I moved mine up an inch. You just wanted to make sure they're even when you get them on. All right, now I'm going to go get this gray, the match whatever color you did his sweater arms in. And since you can't really do a knot in loom knitting, what you have to do to start out, make a stitch, come in here, hold on with the tail, and you're going to tie it in the inside. That way it's not going to come out, because we can't really do a knot. A knot would just pop through like traditional sewing. Now we're just going to sew his arm on. We want to make sure you get both the top and both sides of the thing. Some stuffing coming through. And I'm just going to basically whip stitch it. See why it's easier to do, to sew it before you connect the head. So just, you could do it just from the, if you went ahead and attached your head, it's okay, you can do it. I mean, we got both his arms on. Now, I'm still not going to sew the head on yet though, because we need to put the nose on the head first. And again, it's going to be easier to attach it if we can work on the inside. So right now we have his little body. What's his back? Body with his arms. I'm going to put him over here. And we've got his head. We'll put it right here. And for the nose, so you can do two things. You can loom knit, again using the small loom, for approximately 2 inches, or you can just get yourself like a little pom-pom. I was going to do the pom-pom at first, but I decided to use it for the hat. So I got the little nose, and I'm going to stuff his little nose here. And you want to use, obviously, it's his nose, so whatever color you used for his head. You want the nose to be really round. So with the nose, we're going to go around and we're going to gather just go through the top. It's like a purse string gather. And we're just going to go around the edges, in and out, in and out, in and out, so you can pull it and gather that nose. There you go. Now it's a little round ball. I'm going to do a couple stitches. Now, on the head, you need to pick where you want his face to be, and you want to put it in the center of his face. Nothing right or wrong, just wherever you decide the center is, and that's where his nose is going to go. And you need to just sew it onto the face. Because you want it to lay flat and not like hang off, like, you know, just from the center. You want to do a few stitches underneath, attaching the little ball all the way around to the face. I'm just picking up some of the yarn there, going in there, going back under, and then pulling it through. Just so I'm making sure it's going to lay, you know, going to sit good on his face. It's not just going to like hang off weird. 2 ways you can do it. My plan is to leave a little bit at the top so it looks like a collar. You're not going to see it in the front because his beard is going to cover it up, but you'll see a little bit of it in the back. So I'm going to set my head down in there. Alright, ideally you want to use the same yarn that you made the sweater out of, but I must have ran out of my gray yarn because I simply can't find it anywhere. So I'm going to go down about a 1/2 inch in the back. Leave a tail. tie it. I'm going to go inside. And again, I'm going to do like a purse string. If you don't want to leave a little bit like I'm doing, because I want to make it look like the neck of the sweater, you can just tuck it in as you go around so you don't have any raw edges sticking out. Not gathering it yet, because I'm going to put the head in there. Alright, got it all the way around. Now, take the head, and poke it down in there. And see how I have the sort of like the ruffle of the draw it up. Now I'm going to poke my needle in through. I'm going to poke it all the way through. I'm getting the head now. If you don't have a super long needle, you'll have to squish it through. I tightened it up, went all the way through. Now I'm going to go all the way around. Just make some stitches. I want to secure that head. This is where having like what I did with the ruffle is good, because I can go down in there and it can sort of camouflage my stitches. When you're all secure here, a couple stitches to make sure. Actually, I was thinking it's probably good that I did it in another color so I can show it to you better. So you can see under there, sort of, you see where it's just sewn on, and your little sweater ruffle is going to hide all that so far. Okay, we're not going to be doing any eyes or mouth. It's just going to be the nose. The hat is going to come down and he's going to have a beard. So you need to have a pretty big skein of white yarn because we're going to do his beard. It's going to be like fringe. Before we do that, let's look at his hat. I'm not going to show you how to do this because I have a whole nother video on how to do this. So when you get ready to make your hat, you need to go to my carrot video, how to make a carrot. And you're going to do the same thing you did to make a carrot, only you're going to do it in the color that you want your hat. It just seemed redundant to do another whole segment. This video is probably going to be pretty long how it is. But so when you get ready to do your hat, go to my carrot video. And you're not going to make the carrot, obviously, but you're going to do everything else leading up to the point where you put the carrot together. You're going to make a triangle. I'm going to show you in that video how to make a triangle. I think I also have a witch video, Witchy Witch. It's a stuffed Halloween witch, where we also make a hat. We make a hat, a witch hat. But I think might have done something different. I don't remember. But anyway, it's the same thing. The Witchy Witch or the carrot. You just need your triangle. So go watch that video when it's time for you to make your hat. I've chosen this color that I did the matching cuffs on, and he matches the hat, and so obviously the focal point is the hat. I mean, it's a pretty thing. So to do the hat, and I may have made mine a little narrow, but I'm just going to have to deal with it. We're just going to sew the hat shut, just like sewing happens. In and out, up and down this. Again, yarn is very forgiving. Don't have to be a neat sewer. You just want to get it closed up all the way up here. It needs to be about a carrot. The triangle needs to be about 16 inches long from the point to the base there. I should have said you need to turn it inside out when you're sewing it. I thought you probably know that, but anyway. So now I'll turn it right side out, and I'm going to get my little pom pom, which is totally optional, but cute. You could also add a belt. Okay, and I just want to sew through. There's usually sort of a core to a pom. I'm just going to sew it on the end. Again, like I said, a little hat, and I'm going to take our gnome. And I'm going to roll the ends just a little bit to make sort of like a brim. I'm going to to squish it on his head. I'm going to pull it all the way down to his nose. Classic gnome look there. Push his head in there. Now you can sew that on if you want. I'm not going to sew mine on yet because we're going to start the beard and it might start getting in the way, so I might wish to take it off. So I'm just going to leave it on there for right now. So we had the big hat, that was his body. We had the two little tube hats that we made for his arms. We have the head ball, and we had the little nose. And so that's all. And then we did went to watch the Carrot or the Witchy Witch video to make his little hat, whatever color you chose. We sewed a pom-pom on, and he is almost done. Now, the tedious part. I like the way fringe looks on things, but I hate making fringe. But we're going to have to make fringe, so we're going to put it all on, and then we'll trim him up afterwards. So I'm trying to see. Let's see. So I'm working from both ends of the skein. You could do 2 skeins, or if you have a big thing like this, you can pull on both ends. So I have a double strand on my big needle. And pulling it through, it's about 8 or 9 inches long. So when I'm looking at it, I have like 4 strands there. We're going to go all the way around. It's like a smile, think of it that way. And we're going to do a beard, and you sort of do want it to shape it higher on the sides like a smile, go around like a beard. And we're going to do just about where the ears would be. That's where we're going to start. And you're just going to go under, you see like through the loop. Hold on to the 1 and 2 sides you want to keep it from coming out there. Pull it through. Take your knee. Now you have 2 things here. And just do it 1 tight knot. You could go ahead and do another knot, but I think it would be more noticeable if you do another knot. So I think tying it ties just fine like that. Just leave it hanging because we're going to trim it later. Now you can see why it takes a while to do this. If you wanted to, you could go through. So if we're doing about an 8-inch, each piece needs to be 16 inches because you're doubling it. So you could go cut a bunch of 16-inch strands. And I don't know how many you're going to need because every beard sort of be a little different, but you're going to need a lot because you're going to want it thick enough. So here's some tips. First of all, I did one where I wanted to start on over by the ear, and then I did another one over on the other ear, and then I did one right under the nose in the center, so I could use that as my line to work around. Now, if you want a fuller beard, you can lift this up after you get all the way done and like clip it or something, and you can work a second layer under there. But hey, you know, I'm just going to stick with this. And it didn't take me as long as I thought because I pre-cut all my strands. And by some miracle, I cut exactly the amount of strands I need. I had 45 16-inch pieces of yarn that got doubled, so each one was like 8 inches. I did how I gauged my thing on each row, or it looks like a braid on each row. That's where I tied one loop. Usually when you see gnome beards, sometimes they come down to a point in the middle. So I think what I'm going to do is cut it maybe triangular, and that's our little gnome. But it's not hard, it's just parts. Think of it as parts, do each part at a time and set it aside and then do the next part. So you have a hat, a nose, a head, a body, and then 2 arms. And that's it. That's what you got. And then you're going to do... This has been our gnome, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. And I'm sorry about the long wait between loom knitting projects. I have another one coming up. It's a Christmas ornament, and I think you're going to think it's really cute. So thanks for joining us today at Canterbury Trails Farm, and I'll see y'all later. Bye!